It's Wednesday, and this is Talking Drupal. No, it's not Wednesday. It's Friday. We're recording late this week. This is Talking Drupal, episode number 84, February 6th, 2015, and today we're talking about forums. And just to warn everyone, we have a bunch of grumpy guys on the phone today.
I don't know what you're talking about. My disposition is always sunny.
Yeah, today we're all having a grumpy day. Bad days, frustrating days. It's kind of interesting that we all got on the phone feeling not like our usual joyful selves. So the first happy elf to join us today is Jason Palmental from HW Design. Welcome, Jason.
Hey there.
How are you? Other than grumpy.
You know, I'll have to say it's not grumpy.
Okay.
It's just been busy as all get out this week.
Right.
I've been working on something up at Acquia, and like yesterday, it took me 2.5 hours to drive there, and then working all day, and then like not even an hour to get home. Like the traffic was just so bad.
I have a similar story. I had a meeting in Stamford, Connecticut, Wednesday morning. Yeah, that's why we had to reschedule this. It was Wednesday morning. And so my GPS says 2 hours and a half, and I'm like, you know what? I know this is going to take longer. So let me just plan for like 3 hours and 15 minutes. So it was past 4 hours, and I was late for the meeting.
Oh man, I actually went to Stanford last weekend, and I had some traffic, but I still was able to get down there in like three hours.
Yeah, no, it was 4 hours and 10 minutes.
That's rough.
Brutal. And then the ride home was 2.5 hours. So I left at 5. I left at 6 in the morning. Yeah, I left at 6 in the morning. I was back at my desk at 2 o'clock.
Wow.
After 7.5 hours, almost 7.25 hours of driving.
I took the train to New York on Tuesday, and with the weather delays, with everything, like what's normally a 3-hour train ride was like closer to 5.
Right.
And then ended up missing my train on the way home. Thankfully, I'm lucky that my wife's parents live in New York, so I had a place to stay. And then I took a train home the next morning. But it's like the whole week has been like a little crazy like that.
So the listeners are wondering why we're all grumpy. So okay. So the next grump on the list is John Picozzi from Oomph.
Hey, I'm not grumpy. I'm just busy.
Okay.
I'm in Jason's camp. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Right. Yeah. I think that's really what I mean by us being grumpy. But John, you're always grumpy, so this is not that much different than the usual day for you, right?
I wouldn't say I'm always grumpy. I'm just very rarely happy.
Okay, that's right. I think before you got on the call today, Jason called you a curmudgeon, I think is the term he used. So
yeah,
I don't know what that means, but it does fit you well.
I get that from my dad.
Old man.
You get that from my dad.
And also sporting his soccer jersey today is Nick Laughlin from Enlightened Design.
Good afternoon. Yeah, it's been one of those weeks. Surprised nobody's mentioned it yet, but the Patriots are world champions as of this last Sunday.
That's right. We're supposed to be cheering about that, right?
Yeah, first game I watched all season, but and Joanna was much more excited about Katy Perry at halftime than the game. But it was definitely a good game, very tense, but good game.
Yeah, so the Patriots won, which was great, and us in New England, we're just already anxious about winning the 5th one next year. So we've already gotten past winning number 4 in the past 12 years. So we're looking for number 5. So that's really what it comes down to. But today's topic, to move on to more important things, is forums. And forums. It's interesting because it's a topic that we've been talking about outside of this show between the 4 of us over the past month with customers that are using forums, building forums, and some new thoughts we have about forums. So we figured we'd talk about it today. So let's start with what is a forum? And John's question here is, are forums still relevant? I think that's a great place to start this discussion. So a forum is a place online, usually in a private environment, that people can collaborate. Let's keep it simple like that, with the caveat that it's usually on a particular topic. So if I'm interested in pinball, I might find a pinball forum and chat with other people about things related to pinball.
Well, once you get that set up, tell Brad Frost about it. He loves pinball.
Okay, cool.
So I think my answer is, are they still relevant? Is yes. I mean, they're, as you said, they're very much they're typically for niche discussions, and sometimes they're broader, sometimes they're more narrow. It might be, you might have a forum about pinball machines, and there's one particular thread about, pre-1990 and another about digital, et cetera, et cetera. But I'd say, yeah, they're still strong. A lot of people still use them, particularly around games and politics and hobbies. They're very popular.
So in today's world of Facebook, where a lot of people just are online, what is the analogy there? Facebook groups? Is that a great analogy for a forum?
So that's my one of my biggest questions is, if I'm going to start, I want to start some sort of group that's interested in. I'm a gamer. I play Call of Duty. So say I wanted to start a Rhode Island Call of Duty group. I would think that instead of perfectly capable of building a website, perfectly capable of building a forum, but I feel like my first step would be, oh, well, I can create a page on Facebook. People can go there, they can like it, they can comment, they can do whatever they want. Or I can go to Google Plus and I can create something similar there. So my point is with all these social networks out here that offer very similar functionality, what's the point, or what's the benefit to going and creating a forum that's it's going to take you time and money, and these services are relatively free.
Well, you have to decide whether, like, how important is that content and how core is it to your organization. So software support comes to mind, as we built that for some companies, and I've seen a lot of them that use it. So if they want to have a help section, you want to go to that website to learn about the software. Creating a forum for the users themselves to post questions and answer them, that's kind of a perfect example. One might point out groups.drupal.org, or perhaps the entire issue queue. That's an example of forum-like behavior.
Yeah,
and organized on a topic, you post questions and you get answers.
I think one of the main driving factors in whether you go with a forum or something like groups on Facebook is the timeliness. I mean, if you're in a Call of Duty group and your main goal is to occasionally post a picture about the game and occasionally say, hey, I'm planning on starting to spin up a server, at 5 p.m. today. Who wants to join? And it's, once it's done, it's gone. That's generally fine for Facebook. I mean, Facebook is very ephemeral. It's very difficult to search old posts. It's very difficult to see stuff that came up 6 months ago. But forums, typically have, you have sticky posts. They have lasting topics. You have, there's forums on. There's a famous forum on the joy of chewing on ice cubes that has more than 2,000 pages on the topic, and it's still being posted to today. And it was started in like 2005 or something, and it's very, it's searchable. The content is on your site. You have control over it. It's not on some other entity.
So really, what you're saying is the major difference is functionality. With your own custom-built forum, you're getting more functionality than, say, Google or Facebook might.
Not necessarily. Actually, I think it's much more a content question than functionality, because they'll always have more functionality than we can or will ever want to build in Drupal. But if you want to go where the users live, or which reinforces the argument, if people are on Facebook, go put it on Facebook. Or if it's really core to your own site organization and content, and you want to relate it to other stuff. So you've got forum discussion about your software product, linking to white papers, documentation, help pages, like all that stuff, well, that makes way more sense to have that on your own website.
I think, Jason, you've hit the point there from my perspective, is what else is there other than the forum?
Yeah.
Like, clearly, if I'm just starting a forum, I'm not necessarily going to build a Drupal site to do that. The question is what else is related to the forum? Is the forum part of some entity or content that already exists? It's an add-on. It's an additional piece of functionality to a bigger property in some way, and that's where I think we play a part in adding forums to our customers' websites, whether those be private forums or public forums.
Well, let me pose the question then. You just said you would never build a forum just in Drupal if that was all it was. What would you use if somebody was looking to have a forum and just a forum with nothing else?
So I think it depends. So I belong to, and I've started a couple of forums on Facebook with groups of people that I interact with in the forum kind of way, and a Facebook group gave me the perfect opportunity to do that. There's no technology involved for me. All the functionality that I need was there, and I just started these groups and invited people to join, and we collaborate online like a forum, but I don't have to deal with any of the functionality side.
Okay.
So I'm not running it. I've set it up and I'm using it.
Okay. And you have no need of seeing historical posts or searching content or that kind of thing?
I can do all those things. Yeah. So in a Facebook group, I can go back and search through the historical archive. It's not quite the same thing necessarily, but like I belong to a couple of Google Plus groups. Like one related to Drupal. I mean, that's a forum,
okay,
essentially. You know, there's 4,000 people on that Google Plus group related to Drupal, and there's posts there every day, and there's threads and comments, and I get emails. It does all the things that I'd want it to do with no one needing to deal with the functionality, and that group gets a lot of exposure through Google Plus.
Well, again, I think that sort of comes back to. That puts it where the users are.
Right.
And that makes it far more likely that someone will engage with that forum and know that it's there.
So one other thing I wanted to bring up before we start to talk about the technical thing is that, because I belong to, it's hard to believe that, but I belong to like the Atkins forum and the Weight Watchers forum, like these websites where I've interacted with people in the past. And they always have a forum, and then they have groups. And I don't want to talk about these in terms of organic groups. I just want to talk about the concepts in general. That many times on websites, they have forums where people can join and they create, new threads and people can post. And they have groups that you belong to that do exactly kind of the same correspondence that they do in the forum, the same interaction, but they're called two different things. And I'm struggling with why that is, and I'm bringing that up because we have a customer that we're working with that's making a decision about should they continue with forums and groups. So I just wanted your thoughts on that.
I think the biggest differentiator, at least for me, there is that a forum is an overall topic. So going back to Jason's point about a company has a support forum. Now, that's the company's support forum, XYZ company. Within that support forum, they could have different groups for their product, ABC product, BQG product, and you can join those subgroups to be able to get information specifically about that product as opposed to every product that they offer.
I think that's where groups. Well, I think that's where groups and these like sub forums. I think that's a very blurry distinction. But you've got this broad topic, but people often want to not just talk to other gamers. They want to talk to people that play that specific game that they play, and then more than that, they might want to talk to people who play the specific version of the game that they play. So they may be more interested in talking to people who enjoy the early versions of of Call of Duty that are World War II based versus the ones, from 4 onward, I think, that were modern warfare. So, I mean, I think whether you call it a group or a subforum, I think the idea there of it's a more specific affinity of people that I would like to identify myself with. I want to belong to this group and talk with those people about the stuff that we like to talk about in that game.
Yeah. I actually just looked up the definition for the word forum because I was interested in basically what the dictionary said, and it's a place, meeting, or medium where ideas and views on a particular issue can be exchanged. And I think that's exactly what we're talking about. The overarching issue is video games or support or travel, whatever the overarching category for that forum is. That if you can find a subset or a group within that forum that you can hopefully find your answer or at least ask your question.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is about gathering that critical mass. I mean, it's difficult sometimes to find. One of the reasons why forums online are so successful generally is it's much easier to get a larger audience and get the critical mass of people that have an interest in the same topic as you, in order to have fresh content or answers, whether that's for something like server fault or Stack Overflow or something for Call of Duty, and you're having issues on Windows XP because you're behind the times. The odds of somebody having the answer or the experience for the question or the topic that you're discussing is much greater. And so the question is, when you're looking at something like Facebook or Reddit versus growing your own, the question is, can you drive the correct audience to the forum?
Right.
In order to get that critical mass.
Hey, do you guys belong to any forums? I'm curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Drupal.org would be the
right. Well, other than Drupal.org, I mean, like for any interests you have, like I probably belong to 3 or 4 of them.
I haven't been active on it lately, but there's a really when I was looking at getting my first 912, I found that there was a 912 owners bulletin board.
Yeah.
And that was the place where I learned what the car was and how to work on it and where the resources were. And I am still friends with people I met through that, both online and off today.
He's dating himself by calling it a bulletin board, but a buddy of mine actually, when we were in college, was part of the Audi forum. In specific, the group that had to do with the A8 or the TT or some subgroup in there. So I think that's another area where forums are really big is with car enthusiasts.
It does come down to niche or special interest kind of things, right?
Yeah.
Really
Yeah, and I'm definitely a member of a lot of niche forums.
I don't even want to know what those are.
Oh, nothing bad. Everything from mycology to like Legos to.
Okay, all right.
What's the term?
How about you, John? So you give us a few of your.
Get all the geek out of the closet.
Your closet. Give us a few of your closet forums. Come on.
I really got nothing.
He actually belongs to a forum on closets. Funny you should mention that.
Closet forum, yeah.
I'm on Drupal.org, obviously, but other than that, I really rely on the social media aspect of it.
Okay.
I'm even trying to think, like in my lineage, if I've ever joined a forum. I don't think so. I mean, like, I've used. Let's put it this way: I've used forums for information, like what is it, SourceForge? Like that's, I guess.
Oh, talk about dating yourself! Come on.
Ooh, holy cow! Yeah.
Hey, it still has pertinent information on it. I mean, it comes up in a Google search. I use it, but as far as being a member, that's I'm sticking to the social.
How about GitHub? I mean, GitHub's issues are just basically a forum.
Stack Overflow, server fault.
Yeah, I guess.
Stack Overflow was the one I was thinking of, not SourceForge.
Reddit.
Which is They're gonna take my tech card away from me, but that's all right.
Yeah, I was wondering how you were getting support in SourceForge, but to each his own, I suppose.
He
Yeah,
just actually goes up and looks up questions in the Wayback Machine.
That's actually my favorite website. Don't joke.
All right, so let's move on to let's build a forum. So now let's take us back into the world of we're Drupal people, and we need to build a forum for someone. How do you go about doing that?
Well, I think let's defining a forum as very simplest as it's a place where you can create a post and people can respond. So in Drupal terms, very simply, you've created a node and you've enabled commenting.
Right.
So before you ever even turn a module on, Drupal has the basic requirements there to create content and respond to it.
Does that fly though? I mean, isn't that just a blog?
Well, it depends on who you're allowing to create that content. So a blog would tend to be something where you, the author, have put it up and you're using it to post stuff. But if you allow, say, any authenticated user to create a post, you could use that as a forum. Because and now you would want to add some kind of categorization in there, and that's where actually using the forum module comes into play.
So John's brought up a great point here, is what is sort of the essence of what we would consider something to be a forum. In the Drupal world, is it that someone has the ability to create content and subscribe to content? I like those, the two pieces that...
Well, but responding to it, that's what makes it a forum. That's what makes it an interaction.
But to John's point is that could be you could call that a blog. I mean...
Yeah, but that's a single author.
Okay, all right.
Generally speaking.
I think what Jason's trying to say there is it's two-way communication.
Right.
But more than two-way communication. It's two-way communication where you have the ability to initiate the conversation.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Which to me, I still kind of feel like there needs to be a little bit more there, but I think we're a little further away from the blog at this point then.
Yeah, I think
if you allow multiple authors who are not core members of that site, I think that's where you go from blog to forum, is anyone who's signed up on the site, let's say, can post a question there.
If I had to drop it down into like 3 base features, I would say there has to be some sort of user management. I would say that there's definitely a commenting and reply system. And then I would say there's some sort of method for creating and tagging posts or grouping posts under a like topic.
I would probably add one thing to that, and that would be, and it might fall into the user management, and that would be moderation, like some kind of workflow. Something that you very commonly see in forums are the ability to give somebody a moderator so they can flag something as spam or remove something or flag it for inappropriate or even move it from one topic to another. So going back to the car example, if somebody's talking about their Audi and it's been posted to BMW, then a moderator can come and say, hey, this belongs over here instead, and move it over.
One thing that definitely brings up a really important aspect of maintaining community online is having members of that community with that ability to help shepherd things along and keep it in line. And that's where I think it becomes really important to have some sort of user authentication so that enforces a certain amount of accountability for what you post there.
Yeah, I agree. I think one thing that we should definitely make a point to talk about, and now's as good a time as any, is that one person is not making a forum. One person is not gonna be able to support a forum. You know, by nature, I think a forum is a group of people, and to Jason's point, they have, or I'm sorry, Nick's point, they have moderators. They have people that are. They have people that are supporting them in keeping the content moderated and flagging different things. I think if you're one person and we kind of digress back to the blog where you're one person and you're moderating comments. That's just it's really a blog, not so much a forum.
Yeah, and it's a community, as you said from the definition. It's a community discussing a particular topic, and it's difficult to have a community of one. So,
True. It's also another point is it's a big undertaking. It's not, I think a lot of people, I won't say a lot of people, but I think some people have this idea that they can put up a forum and it's all of a sudden going to be popular and it's going to be useful and it's going to be, it's going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread.
John, I gotta challenge you a little bit here. So if I create a forum and I'm just one person that's managing it, but I'm collaborating with 5 people, and all the 5 people are interactive and we've created a community, that's still a forum, whether it's me and 10 other people moderating it or not. We've created something that's an interactive community, whether it's 10 people or 1,000 people. I'm not sure the quantity of the people managing it is relevant at all to it being a forum.
Right. All I said is it has to be more than one person. So if you have
that's fair enough.
If you create your forum and then you invite 10 of your friends to be moderators, well, that's you and 10 of your friends.
Yep. Yeah,
it's not just you posting out content and moderating it yourself.
Once you start responding to it, that's when I think it starts to become.
You start having conversations with yourself. It's all downhill from there.
So let's get away from the philosophical side of this and get back to the build side, which is how do you approach this in Drupal? So Drupal has forum built into the core in Drupal 7. And what is that? And is that a good place to start?
Well, Nick, I think it's a good place to start to talk about the very core basics of what is a forum, and beyond being able to, as an authenticated user, post something and then have other people be able to respond, grouping them into containers is the next thing that really takes it from being just a big list to something that can be more useful and segmented so that you can have things on topics. So
I'm going to go back to
that. The forum module does give you that basic framework to make containers of questions.
I'm going to go back a little bit here. I think you also need to look at your client or your user base's list of desired features. I think that's going to dictate whether you jump into the forum module or if you build something, based on the Drupal framework.
Yeah.
Or if you go with a third-party service. I mean, there are third-party services out there.
Okay, so I want to put this out there for a future topic. Because we're going to talk about what makes a forum, what gives a forum its foruminess, right? I mean, like, beyond just being able to do the very basic things, like, what are the things that makes a great forum platform? I think we should do the same thing about blogs. I don't think we've ever really done that and talk about, like, beyond just creating posts and allowing commenting or not, like, what are the things that makes a blog, and how would you...
We just lost Jason. Jason, we lost you for 10 seconds there.
Yeah, probably wasn't anything important.
So,
but today is not about about blogs. So
what are the things that goes beyond the basics of the forum module that makes it a great experience? What are the features?
Say that again.
Am I dropping out again? Well, just wondering, like, let's talk about beyond making containers of posts. What are the things, like John started to talk about, what are the features that would make for a great forum? What are the things that you should be able to do to encourage engagement?
So one of the things, and it doesn't necessarily encourage engagement or discourage it. It really depends on the community and the type of topics. But one of the main things to consider is whether you'll have multi-threaded replies or just single-threaded replies. And what that really means is, say there's a parent topic, something about a particular type of car, whether somebody can everybody has to reply one after the other, or somebody can kind of start a subtopic within the same forum reply, and then people can respond to the replies. And it has a very different flow. So a single threaded forum is analogous to something like Facebook. You can post a picture and then everybody can reply to it, and they're chronological. You can kind of read through. There's no real way to respond to one particular person's thing unless you respond right after them. But then if you look at something like Reddit, Reddit's multi-threaded, so somebody will post a picture and then you can either respond directly to somebody or you can just leave a comment directly about the topic. And it's been such a long time since I've used the forum module itself. I don't recall which. I believe it only supports single-threaded replies.
No, I think you have the choice because that's built into the way Drupal's comments work.
Okay.
So you can always choose to have that like single-level replies or nested.
Okay.
And I think what. No, go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say, yeah, so one of the reasons why it's been so long, it might be worth talking about why I choose not to use the forum module.
We'll get there, not right now, though.
Okay. That's fine.
We have this thing called an agenda, right?
Oh, you wanted us to look at that?
No, I wouldn't want to start that now.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, 84 shows in. Why start now?
So because we're talking about features, so we named it one, which was threaded topics. So let's not jump to why we don't use forums. Let's stay on the topic of other features with forums. So how about hot topics? So the most commented on threads.
Well, I think that most commented on things that are new since the last time you were here.
Yep.
Like those are things that are available to you within Drupal's core and with simple views. So that's kind of a nice thing to be able to show. Like, what are the things that I haven't seen since the last time I was here? Reaching out to people, how about email notifications when there are further responses to a thread that I started or commented on. That can be pretty useful.
So I think so. Jason, you're using forums. Sounds like Nick doesn't use the forum. He made that clear. Sounds like you're using forums in some places, or you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
We're using forums in existing customers. John, I assume you're doing the same. But to me, when I say forums, there's also something else I'm saying is that the core module is forums, and then there's some other stuff that you need to have with it to even address some of these other things we've already discussed,
right,
which is the advanced forum module. So I'm not even sure what the difference is between the two at this point because I don't do one without the other.
Got it.
So like you were mentioning threaded comments, is that because I've installed the advanced forum module, or is that because I have the forum module installed from core? I'm not really sure what the difference is, but I think as a base point for Drupal, you're at least going to start with those two things. Is that correct?
Well, generally speaking, but I've looked at what comes with advanced forums, and at least in one instance, I ended up just not using it because it introduced a lot of markup and stuff that I didn't really want. And it didn't introduce enough features that I really did.
And it's not view-based, so it's not like you're adding views that you can easily customize. I believe you're going in and modifying templates to make any changes to these things.
That was one of the reasons,
right,
I think, why I ended up not using it and just building. Views is easy to work with, and a lot of those things like new posts are core Drupal features, so that you can tie into those things in views anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I've gone the route of using the forum module. I've used the advanced forum module and ended up, I think it was quite a while ago, and I don't think I ended up really doing too much with it. And then most recently, I've started with some simple stuff like the forum module, and then in one case I ended up just building my own from scratch because the forum module, you can get essentially the same thing by using taxonomy, your own views, and a content type that allows commenting. And you can get threaded responses just with Drupal's built-in commenting system, so you don't need any add-on modules to do that.
Yeah, and
so what's the benefit, Jason, to using forum?
Well, it depends on how in-depth you want to be. You know, if you don't want to go and build your own stuff, use the advanced forum module. Use the core forum module, and that still gives you lots of functionality.
You turn them on and they work.
Yeah, exactly.
And they work well.
We had a particular, we wanted it to work well in a responsive website, so we didn't want tables and some other stuff in there. So, that's why we ended up building our own, because we also had a specific way we wanted notifications to work. So we built our own system for that. And we just used a different set of modules to generate that same end result.
Yeah, if I were to use the forum module, I definitely wouldn't use it without advanced forum. And one other module that I usually used in conjunction when I did use it was forum access. It gives you much more granular control over what roles can perform which functions on which level of the forum. So you can have moderator specific forums, so people can discuss issues that they're having, with the website, and difficulties that they're having with managing spam, that kind of stuff, that just isn't available to the general public.
So does the core forums module and advanced forums, does that work together with Workbench? If you were to say, oh, I need some workflow that allows me to review stuff before it goes public.
That seems pretty antithetical to the nature of a forum. I mean,
yeah,
that's just philosophically, like putting a gate in front of being able to put a post up is like you kill it right there. No one will ever bother to do it.
So I think what the advanced form gives you, and again, I'm not sure which module this is in, but you do have the opportunity to block stuff or turn things off as a moderator. I'm with Jason here that being a gatekeeper and approving things like you would a comment doesn't really make sense in a forum.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that that comes from definitely more historical experience trying to build community. It's not necessarily a technical thing, but if you have any friction at all around participation, people won't participate, period. They just won't do it. They'll go find someplace else to do it.
But back to John's question, I'm not sure, which was the technical question, right?
But I would suspect
it should work.
That it's just a node.
Yeah.
It's just a node. So
it's sort of. I mean, it's kind of its.
Yes, it is. It's a content type.
No, it's
no, it is. It is, but it's also got the containers and stuff, which are like a weird.
Yeah, but the containers are not related to the nodes themselves. So if you wanted, like, whether or not that node is published.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You're right.
There shouldn't be any issue in putting like Workbench moderation in place.
Yeah,
right.
No, that's true.
It creates a node called forum topic, and then you just have comments on that. It's almost no different than you doing it yourself.
Well,
right?
That's why I've ended up
right.
doing just that. I mean, with one of the schools we work with in San Francisco, that was what we ended up doing, was just creating, and we actually created the groupings by using organic groups because we wanted parents to be members. That was what replaced containers, essentially, and then it was just a content type that allowed for commenting, and we kept it a single-threaded response. It didn't need to nest at all.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Is organic groups related to forums? So the way, if you were to install forums, advanced forums, and then forum access that Nick mentioned, you would have the ability to take roles and assign them to forum containers. So certain people can't get access to certain forums. They can't add new topics and stuff.
Or even see them. I mean, it's very granular. It's kind of like field permissions.
Yeah. You don't see them at all. You can describe who can read them and who can write to them, who can delete them. Yeah, it's just like field permissions. But so how does organic groups play a role here? And why should someone consider using that instead? Because it doesn't play well necessarily with forums.
I think if you want to control access to various forum containers, quote unquote, I think groups make sense there. But for a single
which
forum,
you can do through forum access. From a role perspective.
Right. If you need anything else, though, if you use groups for anything else, like it makes sense to include it that way. I'm not sure I would ever recommend adding the overhead and complexity of organic groups just to control access to forums.
I think one of the big reasons to use organic groups or a forum is organic groups is contrib, so it gets updated far more often and gets attention. Forums, doesn't get too much attention.
That's true, but you're missing the real essence of what the difference is. That forum access is role-based. Organic groups allows people to dynamically create new groups. You can't give people the ability to dynamically create new roles.
Right, but
one is permission-based and one is group-based. It's a very different construct.
Well, and I think the important consideration there is you don't want to be creating 50 different roles.
Yeah, it's my point.
Every time you try and access the permission screen, you're going to crash your browser.
And you need an admin to create roles. To create groups, you can give people permissions to create groups.
Yeah.
It's a very different dynamic in terms of if you're going to be grouping your content dynamically in the system, you should look at organic groups. But if you have a very fixed set of permissions, maybe forum access is the way to go.
No, you can do that. You can do something similar with forum access because you can set a default. So you set a parent container. You can set a default for children, give them access to creating new groups, but they only have access to add them. It's weird, admittedly, but it's somewhat possible. The big stickler for me is that it doesn't see any attention. It gets updates and security stuff, but it doesn't get new functionality.
The basic forum module doesn't need it.
So why do you say that, though, Nick? So can you explain why you say that? Like, it's part of core. So if I'm looking at forum and it's a core part of Drupal, why are you saying it's not getting attention? How do I know that forum
modules get updated less.
Yeah. They don't get new features or new. I mean, it's still using tables all over the place and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like forum, blog, poll. There's a few modules in core that just don't get the attention. There's certain kinds of modules, like I think having views in core really benefit from being in core. But something like forum, I think, would be much better outside. Just because it's it can change with the times. I mean, they could. I guarantee you, if forum was not part of core, we'd be on like forum 3.2, and it would be using responsive, a responsive layout and et cetera. And advanced form advanced form wouldn't exist whatsoever.
I see your point.
So.
Okay, so let's move on to notifications. I think Jason touched on this a little bit, but a key piece of a forum is for people to be notified outside of logging into the website. So I think the basic functionality of a forum is if I've subscribed to a thread, I should be getting emails.
Right.
And there's a few ways to do that. And, I was looking yesterday at the modules that are out there for this, and I was a little surprised at, sort of the support on those. A lot of them were, minimally maintained or looking for maintainers. So I was sort of wondering what you guys thought about that. The ones that I was sort of just peeking at, which were like notify, comment, notify, and modules like that.
Yeah. Well, the notifications module was a standby in Drupal 6, and it gave you a huge amount of customization. So per content type, you could customize aspects of the message template, and it was incredibly helpful. And none of that made it into the D7 port of that module, and it's not super well maintained.
I think it's like an alpha still, right? Isn't it? Something
I don't remember because
Yeah.
I had to bail on it. I couldn't use it.
Yeah, it's still in Alpha 2. Has been updated for 4 years.
Yeah. So what I looked at notify and comment notify, and I'm trying to remember. I think it was some similar issues. I don't remember exactly why I ended up not using them, but what I found was a combination of the flag module and the rules module allowed me to create really simple one-click subscribe or unsubscribe actions and that used rules to generate emails to people that had flagged that particular
thread.
post. So that you could. It's all based on either a thread, a comment response, or a content type.
Right.
And so and that can tie into organic groups. So we're able to allow someone to go into a group and say, I would like to be notified anytime this type of content is created. And so that's how we set it up so that people could be notified anytime a teacher put up a new post.
So what you're doing is you've created a rule that goes and looks at that. If this comment is created, take a look at the flag, see who's subscribed, and send them an email.
Right. And it adds, because there's the tie into organic groups, it picks through specifically members of that group who have flagged that kind of content.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
And loops through and sends out an email. Now, the trick with that you have to keep in mind for larger groups is that it's generating. What Drupal's doing there is it's generating an individual message through every iteration of the loop, and there's no way to queue it. So we have some instances where there's groups that have a couple thousand members.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's going to take a long time.
Yeah, we had to increase the PHP timeout because I didn't have time to try and figure out exactly how to go about and do that. But now Steve already knows the answer to this, which is use Mandrill so that it can queue up and spit out those messages way faster, and you wouldn't really have that issue. We haven't had a chance to integrate that yet, but I think that's a solution.
It's a partial solution because it's still running through and generating the message and sending it to Mandrill. It's just Drupal itself isn't sending the email. I don't know how much.
That's the overhead.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
The actual sending of the message is the real.
Yeah.
That's the expensive process.
Okay.
Because it's opening up a mail server connection, pushing out the message, and then closing the connection every time, and that takes a lot of resources. So the actual generation of the message takes no time at all.
So for people who don't want to roll their own, there is a subscription module. I don't know if anyone's used that. We've used it.
I have.
And it provides most of this functionality. It actually provides an extensive amount of functionality. It allows a user to, by post, say, hey, or by content type, say, I would like to get this format, which is either by message, so every time a comment is going out, send me the comment, or give me a digest format that says, hey, since the last time you sent me something, summarize everything for me. And then they can set up intervals that I want to get this by, real time, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, once a day. So it does give them that ability, the user, the ability to control how often they receive that communication and what's included in it.
Yeah, I've used that actually on a project or two. It takes a little bit of, in my experience, it takes a little bit of fiddling to get it working the way you expect. But once you get it working, it's highly configurable by the users and pretty intuitive.
Yeah, and the only issue that we have with it is that it's by thread. So And so if I subscribe to a thread and say I want to get this message every 15 minutes when something is updated, and a month later you're like, I'm getting too many emails, and you set your profile to say, hey, I'd like to get this once a day. By the way, that setting is only for anything that you subscribe to moving forward. So anything that you subscribe to in the past is still coming at you every 15 minutes. And that's a bit of a user struggle to figure out, unsubscribe to a thread to make these go away. So there's a little bit of a challenge there.
Yeah.
But I think in the end we've built some rules to try to help that. But in the essence, I think the core of the module is very good. Plus it works with I can't remember what it's called. But it's a module that lets you maintain all of the email content. You guys know what that's called? So all of the email messages that come out through subscription, and there's a bunch of them there's some layouts. You can go in and customize any of those email messages.
Oh, that's nice. So that's what used to be available in the notifications module.
Does anyone know what that's called?
No.
I'll look it up right now here, quick.
No.
Okay. By the way, when you install this module that I'm about to name,
is it Mail Editor?
I'm going to look it up now. I can't remember what it's called.
That's one of the requirements.
But yeah, okay, Mail Editor maybe. So what it also does, it takes all the other mail that comes out of Drupal and lets you customize those templates all in one place.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
That should be. Yeah, that would be very useful.
Yeah. Well, and that's an area of, I think, significant frustration, is all the work that you have to do to get Drupal to generate HTML email and customize the templates and formatting of all of that stuff. I mean, that's a lot of work, and it's really confusing, and it's generally scattered across, 3, 4, 5 modules if you want to really be able to do that.
Yeah, so this is called Mail Template. I'm not really. That's what it says in the configuration. Maybe the module is called something different, and it gives you access. Once you install it, it gives you access to all the user templates, and it gives you access to any other module that's using their interface. So in the site that I'm looking at, it also gives you access to the login toboggan templates that come out. So you can customize any of those, and then also the subscription module, which is the one I'm using here. So it's a great. I wish it was better supported and used more. I think there's maybe 5,000 uses of it, but it does seem like a really good module, and I'd love to see that thing sort of blossom a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that it would be really. If I look up the module mail_template, that's D6 only.
So yeah, it might be. I mean, the configuration name here might be not the same as the. I'll look up the module.
On that, on the subscriptions module page, the 2 requirements for D7 are Mail Editor and Token.
Then it's probably Mail Editor. It's probably the module.
Mail Editor module lets you edit the bodies and subjects of all emails that go out from your site to users through Drupal Mail function. So I think that's it. Yeah, that's good to know.
That is it. That is exactly it. So I just went in. That is what it is. Except when you go to the configuration page, it calls itself Mail Templates.
Oh, that's good.
Which makes more sense. All right, good. So if you were to, you have a customer that comes to you tomorrow and says, I'd like to create a forum on my website. What are some of the questions you ask them to decide the direction that you should go? Should you use the forum and advanced forum and the things we've talked about, or should you just go the roll your own solution route? What are the things in your mind that are the key decision points?
I'm personally, just like blog, I'm never going to use the core module just because I feel it's not flexible enough. If anything changes, or if you need to change views, you need to change functionality or pivot or something, it's very, very difficult with the forum module. So I'm almost never going to use the core module. As for the first part of your question, what kinds of questions am I asking? When I have a client that's interested in a forum, typically my primary concern is where the audience is coming from. and how they plan on engaging them and retaining them.
Yeah.
Because that's by far the most difficult part of getting a forum off the ground.
It is, and that's what I often.
But how does that impact the technology solution here? So make sure you
it
link those
impacts
two things
in
together.
how you segment things. I think that's really important. As to however you do it, make sure that you can start out with very few or maybe no subforum type containers, because the worst thing to do is to make like 10 different subforums and have no questions in 8 of them.
Yeah.
So it needs to be flexible so that you could start out with something pretty general and then start to segment it as you start to build an audience. So from a technology standpoint, you want it to be nimble in that way. And I agree with Nick about if you really care about the markup and how this thing is constructed and how well it blends with your site, I think there's not enough benefit to me in using those modules. I turn them on sometimes to just look at what they do, and then I will just make views that mimic it. And then adding things like the
Jason, you are not the average person here. I mean,
no, that may be true, but
I'm not trying to exaggerate that you might be sort of an HTML snob, which I say that in a very endearing way, by the way. I do, but so there's.
It's not a term of endearment I'd heard before, but
no,
okay.
it is. It's absolutely meant that way. Because I admire you for that, but but I think we need to sort of also answer the question for the regular sort of situation here, where oftentimes in forum the markup is not as important.
Right.
Forgive me for saying that, but it's not as important as it might be on the public website, because the forums are generally more private and you're dealing with a confined audience, and there's a little bit more flexibility there. And I say that in very general sense.
Mm-hmm.
So for the things we mentioned were the key things, can we address all of those by not using the forum module, like the threaded comments? So we're not going to use the forum module out of the box. So how do we address, Nick, how do you address the threaded comments? Because that's a key piece to a forum. What is the strategy to do that?
Drupal's comments. It's built in. It's in core.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting to.
Yeah. I mean, that's my answer. I mean, The thing is that, as you said, if somebody else is building the forum as part of their business, they kind of deal with Drupal a little bit, but it's not their main job. Their main concern is getting a forum up and running. They may be tempted to use the forum module. The problem is that I've discovered is in the future they'll need some feature or some pivot or something to change, and forum module both won't allow it, and there's not enough support around it in contrib in order to just install something and make it work.
And the forum module is not doing any, like you said, you would never use blog, because the blog is not doing anything that you can't do with Drupal.
Right.
Sort of out of the box, and the forum fits into that same model. That everything that the forum module does, it's just giving you a shortcut to get there, so you don't have to do any work. But if you do just a little bit of work, you can get to all those places.
Yeah,
all those things that we think are important, like threaded links, unread messages, what is the hot topic, all those things can be built.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes, now, I mean, I think that this, building a forum, like, this is a great Drupal learning project.
Yeah.
So turn on the advanced forum, study how that works, and then go back and see how would you do that with taxonomy, views, a content type. I mean, that's the core of it. And then getting into the more advanced features, things that add that itness. What is it that makes it a forum are things like unread message counts and new replies since the last time you were here, and user reputation so that you can see how many times has this person posted. Using the 5-star or the flag module to allow people to rate comments and or people. Adding people's images in there. So maybe you add the Gravatar module so it pulls in your user image from other sites based on your email address. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do. Like simple little add-on modules that would teach you loads about Drupal, or you may already know them all, and just stitch those things together into what makes for a great forum experience.
And the piece that we just haven't completely touched on, and I just like to bring organic groups into this a bit, because it does give you the ability to now segment data by user, which you're kind of doing often with forums. But the minute you bring organic groups into this mix, you can then bring in other content from this website into those groups.
Right.
So let's say you're got the car website that Jason talked about early on, that he's interested in Porsche forum, and he belongs to a group that is Rhode Island Porsche owners, and he has the ability to now create a content type that is his car. That it's a content type that he created on the website, not related to the forum, but it's his car in the description of his car. And if you're using the organic groups in the forum, you can now attach his car to that organic group. So the people in Rhode Island that he regularly interacts with now can see other content that Jason's created, because the organic groups is the link between the forum and other content on the website.
Right.
It's a bit of flexibility that we sort of bridges the gap between the purpose of the website and the actual forum itself.
Yeah, and I think that, again, kind of helps reinforce the reason why you might want to have a forum on your website versus using an external site.
It totally is. I mean, I think it's almost the only reason. It's really the only reason, because there are lots of forum platforms that integrate with social media and do all kinds of functionality today. That's fantastic. But the minute you have a real purpose on your site with a real specific audience, you can really tailor things to make their experience pretty good too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about like the kinds of things involved, what you were mentioning, what's in my garage.
Right.
So I can create one or more nodes of cars that I own, and I can add photos, and I can add all this stuff. So when you look at me, my profile can have a bunch of really nice things to kind of make that a little bit richer. You can see the things that I've posted, the things that I've replied to.
Exactly.
You can see the car. I mean, now you've gone from a forum to a community.
Exactly.
That's the difference.
Right,
That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. That's cool. All right. Anything else you guys want to say about forums? John left us. He had an appointment to go to at 2 o'clock. He left us 26 minutes ago, I think.
It was a little while ago.
You should have said goodbye. I didn't notice it until about 3 minutes ago. Sorry, John.
He's been gone for 20 minutes.
So how about if we move to our module of the week?
Sure.
And Nick, you recommended us talking about Cloudflare, so I'm going to let you lead on this.
Yep, so the module of the week this week is Cloudflare. The module itself doesn't do too much. The module itself really just kind of corrects an issue that occurs with pretty much any reverse proxy. The module allows you to get the correct visitor's IP address for the Drupal logs, which is generally incredibly helpful. And then the other thing that the module itself does is allow Drupal to know about the fact that a reverse proxy exists. So if you're using some kind of module like Expire, when you're purging caches, Drupal knows to also purge Cloudflare. So they're both very important, but Cloudflare itself will work without the module. This really is just an excuse to talk about Cloudflare. I've been using it for several clients now for 6-8 months or so, and I have to say I've been incredibly impressed It's very, very easy to set up, and
And
it
and for people who don't know what Cloudflare is, it's a content distribution network, or a way to take the static assets from your website and geographically distribute them and serve them using this service to serve those assets to the end user from the closest geographical point,
Yep.
which speeds up the performance of your website considerably.
And that's one portion of it, but one of the things that really differentiates Cloudflare from other CDN services is it's also a reverse proxy and denial of service attack protector. So it's one of the leading services in the world for protecting your site against malicious traffic, and I find it's incredibly powerful. It allows you to ban IP addresses or entire countries as needed, depending on your customer base, and it's in the
That depends on what movie you just released.
Exactly.
yeah, it's very, very quick, and it's incredibly easy to set up. The only caveat for Drupal users is I'd say you need to turn down their JavaScript caching. They have their own JavaScript aggregation algorithm that tends to not play very nicely with Drupal. And then they also have you have to set up page rules to exclude certain Drupal pages from the cache, like the admin pages and that kind of thing. But highly recommend it. It also gives you some interesting statistics. You'll find the traffic levels of your site are much higher than what Google Analytics is reporting.
Nick, have you come to a conclusion as to who's more accurate?
So the conclusion I've come to
before we come to the conclusion, I've seen statistics like Nick has seen where it could be 3 to 10-fold in terms of 10 times the traffic that Google Analytics is reporting versus Cloudflare.
Yeah, so
With Cloudflare being higher, by the way.
Yeah. I have a site that was having some stability issues, had a relatively big server. Google was reporting, 2,000 users a month, between 15 and 20,000 page views. Turned on Cloudflare, performance issues went away immediately, but Cloudflare was reporting somewhere between 50 and 80,000 users a month and 200,000 page views. And the conclusion I've come to is they're both accurate, but slightly for different reasons. So
That's what we love about this industry. Everything's a definitive maybe.
Yeah. So the thing is, Google, the Drupal module, the Google Analytics module for Drupal, automatically filters out all the admin traffic, and Cloudflare has no way of determining whether or not it's admin or not. So that doesn't get filtered out. Usually that's not a huge percentage of the traffic. So what I've discovered is Cloudflare is accurate as far as the number of people going to the website, because it's a gate. It sees everybody coming in, but the page views tend to be a little bit higher, especially because each AJAX request is considered a new page view for Cloudflare. Cloudflare doesn't necessarily differentiate between AJAX requests and not. Google Analytics generally does. The other issue is, in order for Google to count somebody, the JavaScript has to fire. And since it's coming towards the end of the page, there's many, many times it just doesn't fire.
So Nick, is your point that if you're selling impressions on your website, you should use the Cloudflare stats?
The advice that I've given is, if you're selling unique users, Cloudflare is generally okay. If you're as long as you subtract because Cloudflare also, it breaks out actual users, bots, and it breaks out spam. So you use the actual users. I'm comfortable. I'd be comfortable if I was selling traffic using those numbers. But if you're using page views, look at what Google says for an average number of pages visited per user, and then multiply the number of users Cloudflare has and use that number. Because
so basically you're saying just multiply them and make up your own numbers.
No, because you it's difficult to pull out how many requests on Cloudflare are AJAX, but if Google's saying the average person is visiting 2.5 pages, and
Right.
Cloudflare is saying you have 10,000 users. It's pretty. I'd say it's pretty accurate to say that you get about 25,000 page views.
I'm having a hard time understanding why the Google numbers aren't the accurate ones given your description. Actually,
Well, because Steve.
because let's take the JavaScript out of it because that's a small percentage. So
No, but it's not though. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Is that it's not talking about people who have JavaScript off. It's just the fact that it's at the bottom of the page, and it's one of the things that quite often fails to fire.
Yeah. And I have it on 10 or 15 sites now, and across the board,
no, I agree.
it's pretty much exactly.
Yeah, I have the same. I have the same.
Yeah.
I have the same reaction. I'm just not sure that. I feel more comfortable with, like, in terms of real users coming to the site. I feel like the Google numbers that I see are more accurate from what I feel like when I see it. But because the Cloudflare numbers just seem like so much stuff coming in, and I get that.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Google is filtering out the crap, and that's actually the number of users that are really looking at the website.
Well,
I always used to have like server-side log analysis going,
It's
and it's like I want to turn that on again and actually do a comparison.
Yeah, because here's the thing: the site that Google was reporting was having 15,000 page views a month. Their logs, their access logs, were hitting 2 gigabytes a day of log files. So
yeah, but if that's people in China spamming you, I mean, that's going to blow up your log files.
Absolutely, but Cloudflare is showing Chinese people visiting the site is very low.
I didn't mean them specifically.
But Cloudflare is showing the amount of traffic generated from China is something like 3%.
Right. No, I understand.
So
right, but you've got a valid point, Steve.
The conclusion I've drawn is that for the people that Google is actually seeing, the statistics are accurate, but Cloudflare, as far as the number of people visiting the site, is more accurate.
The traffic to the site is more accurate.
Yeah. Right. So grabbing, so that's what I said. Grabbing something like the average pages a user visits from Google Analytics and multiplying that by the number of users that Cloudflare sees will give you, I think, the most accurate picture.
Right.
So.
All right, awesome. Hey guys, thanks again. Sorry, so it was due to me that we were recording on Friday instead of Wednesday. Thank you guys for being flexible, and John did as much as he could today. So let's close. Jason, if people are interested in finding you online, doing business with you, communicating with you, how should they do that?
You can find me at jpomentel pretty much everywhere. You can see work at hwdesignco.com, and if you want to learn about responsive design and typography in person, got a number of different workshops coming up. The soonest is in Boston on March 21st. I'm going to be teaching in a full-day workshop on responsive design and typography, and you can find out more about that at webcoffee.co.
Jason, any chance of getting our listeners a discount code for that?
Well, there's still some super early bird tickets left for only $2.99 for the full day.
There you go. There's your discount code, everyone.
Yep,
jump in
now.
early. Yes. How about you, Nick?
You can find me online at NixFan, NICXVAN, pretty much everywhere on all the forums that we've been talking about today. So if you want to see my interests, you can look there. And you can find me next week in San Diego. So I'll be thawing out from the negative 20-degree weather and relaxing by the pool.
So if we have any listeners that are interested in hooking up with you in San Diego, they should just tweet you, right?
Yeah, send me a message on Twitter at NixFan.
Cool. I will speak for John. You can find John Picozzi. What does he usually say? Anywhere online at John Picozzi, right? Is that what he usually says?
And always online at
umfing.com. There we go. So John, we got you covered.
That pretty well.
Yeah.
That's what he gets for leaving early.
Yeah, and you can find me at Stephen Cross with a PH on Twitter, or always on at parallaxinfotech.com. Guys, hey, have a good week, and I think we're good for Wednesday next week, right?
Yeah. Well, and I do want to say for any listeners that have been watching us from South America, if you're making a trip to DrupalCon next week, we hope you have a great time. Had a little bit of preview of what you'll see in the keynote from Mr. Dries, and I think you're really going to like it. I think it's going to be a great event. We're looking forward to seeing how it goes.
Oh, excellent. So, thanks, guys. And, we have one more announcement. How could we not miss this? Right? New England Drupal Camp.
You're hearing it here first.
I'm going to make the announcement right now. I know it's not official, but it will be New England Drupal Camp, Columbus Day weekend, October 10th, 2015.
All right.
So, you heard it here first, and more to come.
Great.
All right, guys. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.